Hello everyone and welcome to the online lecture series by Shet Vidya Mandir English High School and Junior College of Science and Commerce. My dear students, myself JAYESH RAJGOR, and today we are going to study 12th Standard Economics New Syllabus Chapter number 5 Forms of Market. Yes, my dear students, in the previous video lecture we studied about oligopoly. Today we are going to discuss about monopolistic competition. My dear students, if you have a quick recap, in this chapter we studied that market is generally understood as a particular place or locality where goods are sold and purchased. But in economics, whereas there is some sort of a economic difference to the actual term. In economics, market refers to an arrangement through which buyers and sellers come in contact with each other directly or indirectly. My dear students, we also saw the definition of Augustine Carnot, where he said economists understand the term market not any particular marketplace in which things are bought and sold, but the whole of any region in which buyers and sellers are in such a close contact with one another that the prices of the same goods tend to equality easily and quickly. My dear students, in this chapter we saw classification of market on the basis of place, time and competition, where in place we saw local market, national market and international market. My dear students, we also saw classification on the basis of time, which said very short period, long period and very long period market. The main part of this chapter deals with classification of market on the basis of competition, wherein we saw perfect competition, which was a completely imaginary and ideal form of market, where everything seems to be very perfect. The price of the product, large number of sellers, buyers, and it was laissez-faire policy which was followed, and thus it was completely ideal but an imaginary concept. We also came forward with imperfect competition, wherein we saw monopoly, and in the previous video lecture we saw oligopoly. Today, in the video lecture today, we are going to study about monopolistic competition. Yes, my dear students. In monopoly, we saw there is a single seller who completely dominates the market. We saw, my dear students, how exactly in a monopoly refers to a single firm which has control over the supply of a product which has no close substitute. We also saw that there are barriers to entry. Entry of the rivals is restricted due to legal, natural, technological barriers which do not allow the competitors to enter the market. My dear students, we also saw that the monopolist does price discrimination. Whereas in the last video we saw about oligopoly, we understood that oligo, which means few, and poly, which means seller. Here there are few firms or sellers. Under oligopoly market, there are few firms or sellers. These few firms dominate the market and enjoy a considerable control over the price of the product. My dear students, somewhere or the other, monopolistic competition is the phenomenon of today's modern day world market. My dear students, monopolistic competition is a very realistic in nature. In this market, there are some features of perfect competition and some features of monopoly acting together. So now I can clearly state this, my dear students, monopolistic is a combination of perfect competition as well as monopoly. So if you remember perfect competition properly, where everything seems to be so perfect, it is an imaginary and ideal concept. And you also have studied about monopoly where there is a single seller. Today we are going to study a combination of both, that is perfect competition and monopoly together have formed a new modern day realistic in nature market called as the monopolistic market. Here, my dear student, we have a definition by Professor E.H. Chamberlain. What does he say? Professor Chamberlain coined this concept in his book theory of monopolistic competition, which was published in 1933. My dear students, what exactly he has stated? He says that monopolistic competition refers to competition among large number of sellers producing close but not perfect substitutes. Yes, my dear students, large number of sellers producing close but not perfect substitute. This is what you need to remember, my dear students, and it is very easy to understand. This is a type of a market where there are large number of sellers, once again fairly large number of sellers, which are producing close but not perfect substitute, and thus this picture now becomes more relevant. In oligopoly, we can just take a reference of this picture, but in monopolistic competition, this is in real. Here there are large number of sellers who are producing such kind of a product with different brandings. So this actually is a market which is real in nature and which exists. So let us now understand some important main features of monopolistic competition. Yes, my dear students, the first point states fairly large number of sellers. Yes, fairly large number of sellers. So in perfect competition, you saw there are large number of sellers. In monopoly, you saw there is only a single seller. So this point is a combination somewhere where there are fairly large number of sellers. In monopolistic competition, the number of sellers is large, but comparatively it is less than that of perfect competition. Due to this reason, seller's behavior is like monopoly. Yes, the behavior is like monopoly because the number is large but not as large as perfect competition. Similarly, if one particular seller cannot influence the market, one particular buyer can also not influence the market. So here is yet another point, my dear students, to understand. Fairly large number of buyers. In this market, there are fairly large number of buyers. Consequently, no single buyer can influence the price of the product by changing his individual demand. So there are many customers as well. So the customer is termed as the king of the market, but ultimately the customer has to buy from somewhere. So no single customer or a buyer can influence the price of the product by changing his individual demand. Even if he doesn't buy from a particular place, he will buy from some another place, and thus his alone demand cannot influence the price of the product completely. Moving on to the next point, it says product differentiation. Now you have seen points like price differentiation, but this is a different point which is a big one and gives a great highlight about monopolistic competition, my dear students. Product differentiation. Product might sound or look similar, but the visual treat, or we can say the branding or the quality or the shape or color, cover, design of the product makes it different from the other one. Product differentiation is the main feature of monopolistic competition. In this market, there are many firms producing a particular product, but the product of each firm is in some way differentiated from the product of every other firm in the market. This is known as product differentiation, my dear students. Product differentiation may take the form of brand names, trademarks, peculiarity of package differences, or container, shape, quality, color, cover, design, etc. This means that the product of a firm may find close substitutes, as you see in the modern day world, my dear students. Mobile handsets, there are so many companies which are providing you mobile handsets. They all work similar to each other, but their branding, their product packaging, their color, their style makes them different from the other one. Similarly, there are many cold drink brands available, and every branding has a different branding. Every cold drink manufacturer has a different branding for his or her own brand. So product differentiation is a very important feature of monopolistic competition. Moving on to the next one, my dear students, yet another point of monopolistic competition. It is about free entry and exit. Yes, my dear students, free entry and exit. Under monopolistic competition, there is a freedom of entry and exit. Anyone can enter the market on his own will. There's no barrier, and anyone is free to exit the market anytime. That is, new firms are free to enter the market if there is profit. Similarly, they can leave the market if they find it difficult to survive. So, free entry and exit is also there. Moving on to the next one, selling cost. Yet another important point, my dear students, selling costs are peculiar to monopolistic competition only. Yes, the monopoly in which we studied, there is only single seller. He was the price maker. He used to create the price. He used to demand a particular price. He used to discriminate among the customers. But here the case is different. Here there are fairly large number of buyers and fairly large number of sellers, so no one can influence the price completely, and that is why there is a selling cost which is peculiar in monopolistic competition. It refers to the cost incurred by the firm to create more and more and more demand for its product and thus increase the volume of sales. It includes expenditure on advertisements, radio and television, broadcast, hoardings, exhibitions, free samples, discounts, etc. So in this way, my dear students, selling cost becomes one more important point of monopolistic competition. Moving further, we have yet another point called as close substitutes. As we saw in the picture also, we have similar kind of products. They're not completely same, but they are close substitutes to each other. We have so many mobile phones looking similar, working similar, but there is a different branding, there is a different feature, there is a different quality in it, and thus they are close substitutes to each other. In monopolistic competition, goods have close substitutes to each other. For example, different brands of soaps, toothpastes, etc. So in this way, my dear students, this is yet another important point of monopolistic competition. Moving on to the next one, concept of group. This is the last one, my dear students. Under monopolistic competition, Chamberlain introduced the concept of group in place of industry. Usually we give a term industry to a certain market, but here Chamberlain in his book has introduced a new concept of group. What does it mean? Industry means the number of firms producing identical products. A group means a number of firms producing differentiated products which are closely related. For example, group of firms producing medicines, then all the medicines will come under that group. Automobiles, all the automobile companies will come under that group. So in this way, concept of group by Chamberlain is also an important feature of monopolistic competition. So my dear students, in this way we have completed chapter number 5 with these 7 important points of monopolistic competition, starting with fairly large number of sellers, fairly large number of buyers, then product differentiation, moving on to free entry and exit, then selling cost. So these were the 5 points. Moving on to close substitutes and concept of group. In this way, my dear students, we have completed chapter number 5, forms of market. In the next video lecture, we will continue with the chapter number 6 of economics. Till then, stay home, stay safe, stay connected.